notes.
Welcome to Blue Moon Boxing Club and another episode of The Icons. My name's Doug Fischer. I'm editor-in-chief of Ring Magazine, and with me is veteran broadcaster Jaime Mota. And these three guys are the icons. They need no introduction if you've been following boxing for, say, the last 25 years, but I'm going to do it anyways. Two-division title holder, Paulie Malignaggi. Four-division title holder, Miguel Cotto. Two-division title holder and former undisputed welterweight champion of the world, Cotto-Judah. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's really special because when I first started covering boxing as a writer and later as an editor of a website, Zab already had a name. He was already the man. You guys turned pro in 2001. That's right around the time Max Boxing just started to take off. And I really feel like I cut my teeth and I grew as a journalist watching all three of you guys fight, and I was honored and privileged to be ringside for a lot of these fights, and it's great that the three of you all fought each other, but I just had to say that from the bottom of my heart. I know in the past, I'm sure I wrote stuff you guys didn't like. You know, we don't have to agree with each other's opinions, but it is really special. You guys are true champions, incredibly accomplished individuals, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Right. Well, that's one article that you wrote back in the day.
Oh, come on, man. Well, let's talk about that.
We can go in the middle
camera,
of the ring,
please. Yeah, I will apologize, though. But no, honestly, and I'll start with the elder statesman. He doesn't look like it, but Zab, you're the elder statesman here. We thought it'd be interesting just to talk to you guys about what first drew you to the boxing gym and amateur boxing, because that was your entree into professional boxing where you forged your legends. We'll start with you, Zab, and then you, Miguel, and then you, Paulie, you're the baby. Just what led you to boxing, Zab?
Well, for me, it was my family, my father. My father was a three-time kickboxing world champion. He took kickboxing to the highest of the highest he could go, and he just realized, you know, it was no money in it. So he said, if I'm gonna do anything with my boys, I come from a big family, and he said, if I'm gonna do anything with my boys, I'm gonna put them in boxing, something that's gonna have a long future, and you know they could get paid. So at the age of 5 years old, we started training. 6 years old, I had my first fight. From 6 years old,
6 years old, first boxing match.
First boxing.
Amateur.
Amateur.
Wow.
From 6 years old to 18 years old is my amateur career.
Wow. And
from 18 to 41.
You turned pro in '97.
96.
You were aiming at the '96 Olympics.
I was an alternate.
You were an alternate, right?
Yeah.
So you had already probably you had already made your name like by '95 or so, at least in the New York City area, if not outside.
115 wins and 5 losses.
Wow. Well, now, Miguel's story is a little bit different from what I can remember. You know, boxing was not what you set out to do. You sort of fell into it, right?
I'm the youngest of 3 boys at my house, and my brothers started first than me. I was a chubby guy. When I was 11, my weight was 160, 165. And I looked through boxing just to have a healthy living style.
So you got into a boxing gym to lose weight.
To lose weight, yeah.
But your older brothers, at least one of them, was a boxer. Jose
yeah.
Miguel. Because wasn't he on the 1996 Puerto Rican Olympic team?
He was in the 1996 Olympic team in Atlanta. And he was a silver medalist in Pan Am Games in Mar del Plata, Argentina.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did he inspire you to like take it farther than just dropping weight?
Oh, I started to looking through boxing just to lose weight, and then he was my inspiration.
But at some point, you had to realize that you were good at it. I mean, because the way you took off with boxing as well.
I just work my ass off in boxing and paid off. Just paid off, yeah.
I'd say it paid off.
And we should mention, so your brother was on the 96 Puerto
Olympics.
Rican Olympic squad. 4 years later, you make the 2000
I was in the 2000 Olympic, yeah.
Right. And I had heard about you as an amateur because you had beaten some top U.S. amateurs and you were making your name. So obviously you were kicking ass before you turned pro. Paulie, let me tell you, I heard.
Well, we're talking about kicking ass. That's where we turn to Paulie now.
Right.
As far as getting into
maybe
boxing.
not in the ring, actually. Maybe not in boxing gyms. But I met you at Jimmy's Corner in New York City, introduced to you by Johnny Boz. May he rest in peace. And you were still an amateur. And he said, this kid's got talent. He's got heart. He's going to make a name for himself. And this is crazy. What I remembered about you is you were really quiet. And I don't know. I don't remember if it was like an official media gathering, but all the boxing writers got together at that bar anyways or whatever. It wasn't late at night yet, but I just remember it was in a bar and it was Johnny Boz saying, this is Paulie. Maybe you just won the U.S. national tournament.
Yeah, I think I
And he
remember
said
that.
he's
I
the
think
amateur
it
champion.
was the night the Olympians turned pro in January 2001.
think you're
It was the
correct.
Olympic debut show where
Right.
DiBella had
He had a
signed
bunch
a
of
lot of the
guys.
Olympic.
That's
Ricardo
right.
Williams turned pro and a bunch of guys. So I attended that fight, and then I was at Jimmy's Corner afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
think
what
I
was it
remember.
that got you into boxing early on?
I didn't start until I was 16, and I didn't have my first amateur fight until I was 17. So I didn't ever expect it to kind of fall into boxing. I was I'd say casual boxing fan. I liked the big fights, I liked the Chavez fights, the Tyson fights for sure, since I was a kid. I enjoyed watching boxing. At the time in New York, we used to have the cable box that used to steal all the fights, so we used so I used to watch all the fights, but I wasn't boxing, and I got into some trouble, family trouble, outside of school trouble, and school trouble. I got expelled from school. I got kicked out of my mom's house, and I was with my grandparents, and my grandfather just took me to a gym, and he just basically said, you're not gonna spend all day just hanging around now that you're not going to school. You don't think now because you got no school, you're gonna have a free day. You're gonna go to the gym every day, and that's it. My uncle had offered it to him, because my uncle had kind of messed around with boxing before. And first he resisted, and then he was like, you know what, this is a good idea. I don't want this kid hanging around in the street, And I kind of went, and all of a sudden, it was the first time in my life I found something that I could be disciplined with because I liked it. I was never disciplined in school. I was never disciplined in anything, before that, One reason or another, I don't know, but I started training in this gym, Gleason's gym, and I just fell in love with it. And all of a sudden I realized, first of all, if I'm not disciplined, I'm gonna get my ass kicked here every day, because it's a rough gym. And second of all, if I'm not disciplined, and if I mess around, I might lose the ability to come here every day. I'm gonna get in trouble or something, So I turned everything around, It's funny you said I was a quiet kid because I think when I was a kid,
Not with me.
no. Yeah, that I was just gonna say. Here's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that when I was young, I learned to talk very early. I was a very talkative kid. Then there was some years through my life where I think I lacked self-esteem. My family broke apart and everything, so I kind of just went into my own little shell, And I think it was boxing that kind of brought that back out of me, brought that confidence and talkativeness back out of me. I always had it naturally, but I lost it for some years, And once I got comfortable, and in boxing I got comfortable talking, and kind of my natural attitude came out, especially when I was young. And I grew up in boxing in those years, and I heard about both of these guys. Dad was in the gym with me. I used to sometimes stay late. I used to train in the morning time. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't even have amateur fights. I used to stay late sometimes to watch him spar. I remember him sparring like Victor Rosado and guys like that, like smoking guys. I mean, this absolute crazy speed, and being like, wow, man. I'm like, like to get good, you got to get like this guy, and I'm just starting out, and I'm seeing this guy.
And if this is the late '90s, he's already on TV.
Yeah,
he's fighting
this
on
is the
Mike
late
Tyson
'90s. Yeah, he was an
Yeah.
up and coming fighter. And he
Yeah.
was the talk of the gym. There was a lot of good fighters because that was the talk of the
boxing.
gym. And I remember even seeing Miguel. I remember seeing because there was some USA dual meets. Sometimes they'd televise them, and I remember seeing Miguel against Jacob Hudson. And I remember watching him beat Jacob Hudson one day.
was in Seattle.
I think it was '99 or 2000. So I knew who they were, and I was watching them, and I knew like I gotta get to this level. And I started late. I remember thinking like I gotta get to this level to if I want to be somebody. I have to make up the years that everybody else started younger than me. So but again, that dedication, I had a passion for it, and we put the work
But at
in.
what point do you know you're good enough to turn pro? Like you don't have an older brother who was an Olympian, and you didn't start out when you were 6 years old.
You know what
like
the best
Zab.
thing is? They say ignorance is bliss, right? And
Right.
for me, ignorance was bliss. I started boxing in 1997. I still remember the first day I walked in the gym, June 26, 97. The real reason I remember the day is because it was a Thursday, and 2 days later, Mike Tyson bite fight with Evander Holyfield happened, and that's the date of June 28th, 1997. So my first day in the gym was June 26, 1997. Like literally, like get in front of a mirror and learn to throw a proper jab. That kind of first day, you know. And I had my first amateur fight in March 1998, and for some. Again, ignorance is bliss. I thought I'm gonna make the 2000 Olympics, and then from there I'm gonna turn pro, and I'm gonna have my goals. In my mind, that's what I was gonna do. You know, you look at it now, like you're not gonna start boxing in 2 years, make the Olympics. It's very difficult, you know. But in my mind, that's what I'd set out to do. I didn't make the Olympics, obviously. Miguel did.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So, that was in 96. So I didn't make it. But in my mind, I was thinking that's what I was gonna do. And then I said, and I'm gonna turn pro. So 2000 comes, I don't make the Olympics. So I'm disappointed. But I said, you know, I'm still pretty good, but I don't think I have enough experience to turn pro yet. So I'm going to give myself another year. I had some offers already in 2000, but I just didn't trust that my comfort zone inside the ring yet. I felt like there was some moments during my fights where I was still making uncomfortable decisions, and I said, if I do that in a pro fight, I could get knocked out. I waited one more year. And then 1 more year later, I had the comfort to turn pro.
At this period, who were your teachers? Who were your trainers?
I started with, as a matter of fact, Puerto Ricans were my first couple of teachers in boxing. My first trainer was Willie Badillo in Gleason's gym. He was a Puerto Rican trainer. And then my pad man, because Willie was a little older, he couldn't keep up with the pads as I gained speed. My pad man was Orlando Carrasquillo. Zab knows him. And I learned a lot with Orlando as well, both Puerto Rican guys. And Orlando actually had done a lot of pad work in the main events camp. So he'd done work with Colonel Whitaker, Meldrick Taylor, Arturo Gatti, all those guys. So and I remember the first time I saw him, he was working pads with Junior Jones in Gleason's gym, you know? And so I learned a lot from those two guys. Those are my first two teachers, you know? And they kind of worked together, you know? And that was where I got my base, my boxing style, you know? It was kind of that New York Puerto Rican style, you know? I Hector Camacho, you know? Like that, you know? Because I always found Puerto Ricans from the island fight different than Puerto Ricans from New York, you know? Like I felt like it was more flashy in New York, and then Puerto Ricans from the island are more set on real bangers, you know? Like punching, you know, like Wilfredo Gomez.
Great technique, but
that's the
sitting on them
technique,
punches.
Wilfredo Gomez, you know, Miguel, Felix Trinidad, you know? Yeah, and New York was more of a flashy style Puerto Rican, you know? So I kind of got that New York style taught to me, and I picked it up. And I had natural speed, and so, you know, like Miguel said, hard work.
Now, Miguel, obviously, you mentioned your brother, your cousin, your uncle. It was a family thing in a way, right? So is that how your teachers, Evangelista, or how did you go through the progression of, you know, learning to be a boxer?
Just looking at my brothers at the gym, just following my father and his brother instructions, and just killing myself every day at the gym and just trying to be the best version of Miguel in fights, you know.
And how did you know at what point did you know, this is something that I'm pretty good at, from learning, from seeing, from following those instructions?
I made the national team of Puerto Rico when I was 16, and right after that I decided that I want to be a boxer for the rest of my life. Yeah.
So Zab, you started when you were 6 years old. Obviously, at a very early stage is probably when you realized, you know what, I've got it. This is something that I can do, and then people start talking about you. What was that point?
No, for me, it was, I never really grasped it until, because for me, it was like win a tournament, you excel to the next one. Win another tournament, you go to the next. You win this, you go to the Nationals. You win this, you go to the World Champion. So for me, it was just like a steady, just keep winning, keep winning, keep winning, keep winning. Oh, wow, next tournament. Oh, wow, I'm getting ready to turn pro. Oh, wow. I'm telling, it wasn't really like.
So it was a natural progression.
It's just a natural progression, yeah. I never really said, yo, I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to be a boxer. Of course, as you go in, that's your thought pattern of a fighter. But I never really, told myself, in school, I'm going to be a champion of the world fighter. No. I never had that. I don't know. I just kept boom, boom,
No,
boom,
three
boom.
completely different.
You know, it's funny he says
way of
that because
thinking.
he's funny he says that because I remember he was a coach at the 1999 Empire State Games, like helping the younger fighters, and he actually mentioned something about the amateurs like that. I remember Zab saying he was talking to the team, and we all looked up to him at the time. You know, we were all younger than him, all trying to be like him. He was a hot prospect on the verge of a world title, and I remember he said, and he was already a pro, and he said, these amateur fights all matter. He's like, don't think because they're not getting paid they don't matter. He goes, because you see, you want this bag of money here, you have to bring this sort of resume from the amateurs. He goes, when it's time to turn pro, they're gonna have a bag of money and they're gonna say, what can you show me? And you gotta say, well, I got all this that I won in the amateurs. You know what I'm saying? And I remember him, that specific advice. He didn't just tell me, he told a bunch of us. We were sitting there listening to him. And it's funny that he just says that, you know, one tournament, you go to the next tournament, you go to the next tournament, you go to the next tournament. Because that's all the things people wanna see, that resume build up.
Well, that's also different for the three of you because you were probably the one that got signed by the bigger promotion, the biggest promoter coming out of the 2000 Olympics.
Both of them, Zab. Zab being an Olympic alternate, but also being in New York City.
Right.
With a hype that comes from being a standout in the media capital of the world. Both Zab and Miguel, they signed with high-power promoters. Main events for Zab. That's back when Lou Duva was still alive.
Exactly.
Everyone knew who he was. If you got him as a mouthpiece, man, it's amazing how quickly America, if you're a boxing fan, you're going to know about main events top fighters. And Zab definitely had that shine on him. Miguel, coming out of the 2000 Olympics, signing with Bob Arum's Top Rank. And they're known as being the best at developing
young fighters,
talent.
yes.
So here's what I remember. When Miguel won his first world title in Puerto Rico, and it was literally 17 years ago. 17 years ago yesterday.
It was September 11, 2004.
Yes, 2004.
Yeah.
I'm
He
there.
beat me twice in the amateurs, yeah.
After the fight, Bob Arum gets in front of the media and says, this kid is a future Hall of Famer. So when you're talking about a fighter's upbringing and expectations, Zab and Cotto, they had high, very lofty expectations, but people expected them to reach them. With you, Paulie, it's different. Not that you weren't supremely talented, but you had to make your own noise.
Well,
and you're not a puncher either.
No,
like
I always recognized I started late, so I had to make up ground, you know, and that was kind of my motivation. I have to make up ground, you know, but I would see the way I would perform in the amateur tournaments, and at first I didn't win them all, but then little by little I was winning more of them. So, you know, I could kind of had a sense of where I was, where I stood. But yeah, I had to catch up, you know, because, you know, I knew being at these guys' level and being behind it, I knew if I want to be somebody, I have to be like these guys, you know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but 2005, when you challenged Miguel Cotto for the WBO 40-pound belt. Oh, 2006, yeah. So 2 years after Miguel, a little less, but yeah.
Third or fourth defense.
Yeah. And by the way, looking back at that title run at 140, WBO belt, really solid. I remember people like,
knockouts.
I don't know, yeah. Well, he was knocking guys out, but I don't think he got enough credit at the time for who he was fighting. He was fighting Randall Bailey. Was it Chop Chop Corley?
It was Chop Chop Corley.
So these are
I was in Puerto Rico for that fight.
So former champions, and then he's fighting undefeated guys like you, Paulie, and Ricardo Torres, who will be champions. You know, but at the time, here's the thing: at the time, nobody knows who the Colombian is, Torres, and then they're mad at you having a tough fight. And really, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paulie, like when you fought Miguel, that was like your litmus test. We're like, okay, this kid's undefeated. He's got the gift of gab. He's got the gift of jab. We've seen him on ESPN. We've seen him on maybe on Showbox or whatever. But now we're gonna know if he's the real deal.
That fight,
if he's a real contender.
That fight changed my life because before that fight, I was always injured, so I wasn't making enough money to make ends meet, man. I was like, you know, like with the money I was making before, it was not great money, but if I could fight consistently, okay, I could pay my bills. The problem was I was getting hurt, so I couldn't fight consistently, and I'm always like in money problems, and I'm like, man, that's like, and I'm trying to fake it with everybody, you know, everybody sees me on TV, so I know. But meantime, I'm like, man, these hands are gonna destroy me like this, like, because I had 4 surgeries between 2001 when I turned pro and 2002 I had my first surgery, and 2005 I had 4 different surgeries. So I'm like, these things are killing me. Like I'm running out of money. And I remember when I got the phone call. I still remember the phone call I got. They say, you can challenge for the title, and I was excited just because, at the time, for me, that's like super money. It's like, for me, it's like, oh my God, I finally I can, get this money, and also it's your dream. You've been waiting for the world title shot, like it's the thing you've been waiting for since you first walked into the gym, and so I was excited. It happened to be Miguel, but for me, it could have been as long as I was getting the world title shot. And then, of course, knowing that he was my age, that's why I was talking so much. He was my age, and I said, this guy's not, he's knocking everybody out. He's scary, But I said, you know what? This guy's, he's my age. He's like me, Like it's like, sometimes you have a way you look up to older guys, but I'm like, this guy's like me, And then I remember when we got the fight, and I'm starting to watch video. So I'm starting to watch video. Like now I've always watched him come up, but now I gotta seriously watch him. And I'm like, man, this fucking guy's strong, man. I remember watching the Victoriano Sosa knockout, and the Corley fight, the Torres fight. Yeah, but it was like, it was violent. Like I remember Victoriano Sosa going down on his ass and just having this look on his face, like, what did he just hit me with, And I remember, okay, man. I was like, this is gonna. And I remember walking in when I was getting ready for the fight, just telling myself, I'm gonna probably get hit harder than I've ever been hit in my life. That was kind of the mentality I trained with. Like, I'm probably gonna get hit harder than I've ever been hit in my life. So when it happens, maybe I'll overestimate it. I said, maybe I'll, and then if it's not as hard, it'll be better for me. But just think to myself, I got hit harder than I ever got hit in my life. And I was hoping I overestimated it, but nah, he hit that hard.
And early on,
he
too.
He hit that hard, yeah. He hit that
hard.
What
did you think of Paulie when they told you were going to fight him?
Paulie talked too much before the fight. He was in the press conference because of my problem making weight. I couldn't touch water, I couldn't touch food, and he was making jokes about our water in the press conference was making me mad,
You don't want to get Miguel mad.
Here's the thing. Miguel was the kind of guy, I noticed this in the build-ups to his fights. Everybody was like, I want to thank the champion for giving me the opportunity. Like, very, very respectful to him. And I'm like, this guy's like me. He's my age. Why is everybody they're beat before they get in the ring. These guys are already beat before. So I said, no, this guy's like me. You know what? I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna throw him something different that is gonna shock him. Don't get me wrong. I was a natural talker, but now I wanted it to be specific. Like, I want to show him that I'm not like everybody else. I have to stand out like everybody else. First of all, it was my chance, like you guys said, it was my chance to finally show if I belonged at this level or not. So I kind of just threw all my chips on the table and I knew he was going to be pissed, but I had said, and it's funny because it's one thing when you're going to say you're going to do it, but then when you're in the room with him, you got to, now you got to say it to somebody's face.
To somebody's face.
So you got to know okay, once you put it there, now your chips are in. You can't take it back.
Had anybody done that to you before? Talked that much?
No.
And gotten you that mad?
Nobody.
Were you mad when you got in there? Because you look, your composure was as calm as ever. That's what it looked like from the outside.
In the ring, man, it felt like he was trying to punish me. I'll tell you.
It's just work,
But I'll tell you, there was one particular jab he hit me with. Miguel had a specific jab, maybe because you're a natural left-hander. This jab hurt my jaw so badly. People think I broke my jaw. I didn't break my jaw. I broke my orbit bone in the fight. But this jab, it was like it would come from underneath, and somehow it was always hitting me right here, under. And it made the joints in my jaw feel like they were blown out, even though my jaw was fine. And also, one time he's hit me with it a few times. So after a few rounds, I'm going like this, I'm checking if my jaw's broken. That's what I'm doing. I'm going like this. We were at a distance, where I was not in punching range, and we're fighting, and I'm going, and he goes, hurts. And I think you guys can recognize the moment in the fight because I shake my hand, I go like this, and then I try to surprise him with a shot I missed. But that moment, that's what he just said. He said he's trying to taunt me with the shot,
Now you hit him, you cut him in the first round with a punch, and you say that is what changed the fight early on.
Well,
early.
I wouldn't say it changed the fight because Miguel is Miguel, and it's going to be a difficult night. But I will say it was welcome to the big time. You know, I say it was welcome to the big, because before that, and there was a lot of people that thought this, I had just been the pretty boy, you know, with the hair, the eyebrows, coming in with flashy clothes. I never got touched. I had no cuts in my career to that point, you know, like I had no scars on my face. So I think, and maybe Miguel can answer the question better, I think he was trying to make a statement like, this is going to be a different night for you, you know? So I was cut within like 15 seconds of the fight. I don't even think the headbutt, it was a headbutt. It was like, no, we got in a clinch and I went like this. And I think it's just his head pushing against my head, you know? And then we broke and I'm cut, but it was not a butt, you know? It was like in a clinch and it was like his head, he had a good way of positioning his head, something also that I learned in that fight, you know? Like you have to stay awake on the inside all the time. Yeah, and he put his head and he would like have his head here. And I was trying to get my head in a position where he couldn't hit me. So I'm trying to get low and we're wrestling heads. The problem is he's got his head in a better position and it was like, and it just cut it. Yeah, and it's cut. And we came out of the clinch. I'm like, oh man, I'm cut. Like it was weird.
In the second round, you go down.
Yeah, that was the wake
Everybody
up.
stands up.
Yeah.
You got to feel that heat,
That
that
was the wake
attention
up.
from a packed Madison Square Garden.
That was the wake up because the shot, I think it was started to break my overhead one because I felt something weird when he knocked me down. It was because if you look at the shot, he throws a 1-2, and I go to step back jab at him. I step back jab, but he throws a 120, crosses his foot over, and then he's in a southpaw stance and he throws an overhand left. And that, I didn't expect it, you know? I thought he was out of position. I was just coming back in to shoot something. But I came back in, he walked right through that jab, man. I stepped back, I threw the jab, and he walked right through it and just laid into it with a big overhand left, and it dropped me. And I felt something, and I just remember, as I'm going down, I don't want to look at him, I don't want to give him the satisfaction. Like, so instead of looking this way, he drops me, but instead of looking up at him, I look down and then I look the other way. And I remember, this is what I remember, I still can see it like yesterday, I can still see this image. My ass hits the ground, the instant my ass hits the ground, I'm looking this way, this entire side of the arena is, I was like, oh. Well, like
you're like, wait, I'm fighting in New York. This is home.
And that, I got up, and I'm taking the count, and I said, are we gonna do this, or is this the way this is gonna end? You know, because I knew this was the litmus test. If I don't perform well, I'm gonna go back to club shows, and it's gonna take me years to get back to. If I don't do something, so I said, wake up right now, or this whole 10 years you've been doing this is over. You know. So I had to calm down, you know, but it's the kind of fight where you have to learn, you know.
You climbed your way back into the fight. Like you legitimately, like rounds 4, 5, these middle rounds are competitive rounds. And you're not running around the ring like people expected. It was not a big ring. No. Probably small, about the size of this one. But,
well, that's what happens. He's got the better promoter.
Yeah.
You know? So he's, you know, they're going to do what they got to do, you know.
I mean, people were praising you for your determination, your heart, gutsy were words that I was hearing, but I'm also seeing just a tremendous amount of craft with your feints and your jab and the timing and even the grappling on the inside. You knew what to do.
Yeah, because I had to settle in, otherwise he's going to blow me away.
Right.
Yeah, I saw him blow everybody else away, you know, so I told myself I'm going to be different, and here I am about to get blown away in this fight, you know. So I remember I decided, when we went back out to fight, I remember I'm feeling this weirdness in my face, and I said, okay, give away the rest of this round, because I lost a 1080 the way. No matter what you do, it's lost a 1080. Give away the rest of this round and come back in the third round and start trying to win. Trying to put rounds in the bank, you know? So I remember the rest of the second round, I just told myself, don't take any more damage, whatever. I don't remember how the rest of the round went, but I remember that was my mentality. And then try to come back in the third round and start over. And I don't remember if it was the second or the third round. I reached for a right hand to the stomach, and I missed it, and Miguel stepped back and hit me with a double hook, like, bang, bang. And usually, like, a step back hook is not that hard, but this guy, man, he got the heaviest hands, so it's like, bang, bang. And the rest of this thing broke. I actually literally felt like, like, you know when you grind stones together, like, I felt like again, I don't know, I didn't know, again, ignorance is bliss, and the best part about that is, I didn't know you could break these bones. Like, so all night, as I'm swelling, I'm wondering, what's wrong with me? My jaw's fine. I can breathe out of my nose. That's fine. But now that I know what happened, when I heard that, like that was the bones probably grinding, like broke, you know.
Did your vision change throughout the fight because of that?
I don't remember my vision being too bad, honestly, but I just remembered now you got it swelling really badly, and I remember thinking like, what's happening? You know, like why is this thing swelling? And I'm like I said, before I was checking my jaw. I could open and close my jaw. I could breathe out of my nose. So I'm like, these aren't broken. Why am I swelling? You know, like. But I knew this guy hits hard. I mean, I'm saying in my mind, like I always tell people, the first shots he hit me with in the fight, I didn't know whether to cry or get mad. You know, I was like,
Seems like you got mad.
Yeah, I was like, but I had to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, Miguel, did he do anything in particular that, you know, made you think, you know, this kid is in here for a fight? You know, after you dropped him in the second fight and you saw that he started to swell, did you think that you were going to go ahead and knock him out as well? Or at one point did you say, well, you know what, I'm in for a bigger fight than I actually expected?
You know, having him after round 2, 3 in front of me, I knew that I hit him hard with my best punches, and he still be in front of me, you know. I already knew that it's going to be a long night.
That's what it looked like.
And did he do, like, did he gain your respect as the fight went on because of his
absolutely
because of his boxing acumen?
Absolutely, yeah. His courage just to be on his feet, pressuring me, fighting me. He gave me all my respects.
Actually, when you paint the pressure, it made me think. I saw one thing in the video. Now you're done fighting, we're done fighting. One thing in the video, and I remember I said, this is a flaw. I said, I can see. Sometimes Miguel would hit you with a combination and he'd go bouncing away. Like, I don't know if you did this later on in your career. You just bounce away. When he bounces away, he's not able to punch. So I told myself, anytime you see him bouncing, attack him because he cannot make you pay. You know, like maximum, I'm gonna miss, but just come with any punches at him so that psychologically he cannot get that break, you know? And I was trying to be annoying with that. Every time I saw him start bouncing, if you watch the fight, anytime I see Miguel start to bounce, because in his other fights, I remember he'd bang you around with a nice combination, and then he'd go bounce away, and the opponent would be just happy that he went away because he hit so hard, would be just happy that he went away, that they'd let him go away. But it's giving him a chance to reset. So I said, no matter how much pain it is, I said, if you see him doing that, just go attack him. You know.
And that was one staple of Miguel. Yeah. He did that.
Yeah,
you know, and he was no. As a matter of fact,
kind of circle.
A lot of people thought that was elegant, you know, in Miguel's part. You know, the way that he went in, and then he's just sort of light on his feet,
nice.
and he goes.
Right?
Yeah,
he'd go around.
You know what? It was. I thought it was a brilliant boxing performance by both junior welterweights. Miguel, you kept your WBO title. This is a two-part question, Paulie. It's a loss, but you know, are you proud of this performance?
Look, when I can take a break from it now, you know, the fight changed my life. I never had to worry about money again ever since. So, you know, this guy changed my life. You know, that opportunity. You know, and after that, you know, I stayed at that level for a lot of years. You know,
and knowing your mentality, you must have known I can win a world title.
And no, that night I was very disappointed. I mean, I was crying. I was like, I felt like my whole world fell apart, you know, like, but, and I needed surgery to fix the break. So I had a lot of time to think about it, and I can't fight, you know. So at that night, I mean, after that, I was supremely disappointed. And people were trying to pick me up and say, oh, but you fought really good. People are going to remember that. And I didn't want to hear it at first. Now looking back, I can see it with a clearer picture. It changed my life. I mean, like I said, I've never had to struggle again for money. It allowed me to get other opportunities. And another thing people don't realize, it made me overestimate Love Morendo the next year. And because I overestimated him, I got so ready for that fight because he went 12 rounds in Miguel. And I said, if this guy went 12 rounds in Miguel, this is going to be another Miguel type of fight. And I was like, I got to go back to hell, you know, because I was like, it's like hell going to hell to fight this guy, you know. So I put in my mind, like, this guy went 12 rounds in Miguel, and he gave Miguel a tough fight, you know. So I got to fight him for the world title. So in my mind, I trained that whole training camp with the thoughts of the fight from him, you know, like it's going to be hell, like, you know, be sharp, be this, be that. But now I have the experience with him and I'm more prepared. And Lovemore, although he's very tough, didn't have the skill Miguel had. And I made it very easy for myself, and it was pleasantly surprising, you know.
Well, 2 fights after that, a year later, you fight Urcal, and then Quintana, then Urcal, and then Zab comes around. What do you remember of, you know, getting ready to face Zab?
It was the biggest name I'm going to face in my career, and I just put myself again in my track of trying to be in the best condition in my career.
How about you, Zab? You know, it's a guy like Miguel who's been, you know, knocking people off left and right, and you get to fight him at home at the Garden.
I was pleased. I thought it was a big fight. You know what I'm saying? Miguel was coming up. He was knocking everybody out. You're right. And we was coming to New York City. And it was the Puerto Rican Day Parade day, same day. So, and I always know now on a regular day, without fighting, when I go to this parade every year, I have a good time, I have fun. So I'm thinking like, okay, this is for me.
It's
what?
party time.
What? I got to the Garden. No. We're here for Miguel. So that was, I mean, it was something different going into the ring, but it was a night to remember.
That fighting on the eve of the Puerto Rican Day Parade, that began in 2005 against Muhammad Abdullahi, the Olympic rival. And it really caught fire with Paulie because New Yorker. You know, you that combination of a Puerto Rican and a New Yorker, it really set the arena on fire. I wasn't there for Paulie's fight, but I was there in 2007 for the showdown with Zab. And I have to say, it's one of the livest atmospheres I've ever covered. And I remember thinking when you turned pro, I'm like, this guy is going to be a very special fighter out of Puerto Rico. Going to go down as one of the best, but he's never going to equal Felix Trinidad in terms of that in the arena electricity. Because some of Tito's fights were crazy. Like literally, your fellow members of the media from Puerto Rico would stand up and start screaming and knock the table down and Tito, you know, they'd knock your coffee, you know, and your laptop down on the floor, and you're like,
They're Puerto Ricans.
guys, we're on press row. Listen, I'm sorry, okay, all right. Tito lands a big left hook, Tito, and like, so everybody would go crazy. I'm like, I don't think I'm ever gonna see anything like this again. You're different from Tito, but your consistency and the fact that you were fighting just the best out there, you gained the respect of hardcore fans, regardless of where they're from, but definitely Puerto Rican fans. And that night was just, and there was Brooklyn showed up as well. Yeah. Zab, you had your fans there, which made it a little bit different because Tito was like 100% Tito. This was like, you know, maybe 80-20 Cotto, but that 20% made noise as well, and just a great electric, festive environment before the opening round.
I remember, you know, Miguel's fights in the Garden. One of the things that made me want to be there is just when all the Puerto Ricans fans would stand up on one side of the arena and we go, "Soy Boricua," and the other side would answer, "Pa que tú lo sepas," and it went back and forth, back and forth. And, you know, it made you think that you were in Puerto Rico. Did you guys ever feel that during your fights?
Yeah, I remember before I fought Miguel, somebody told me, you know, there's more Puerto Ricans in New York than there are in Puerto Rico. You know?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's the parade weekend, so there's more coming from out of town as well. So I expected it to be kind of rough.
How did you go through that whole scenario there?
It was cool for me. You know, I was living in New York. You know, I'd be up in. I got a lot of Spanish friends, a lot of Puerto Rican friends, lot. You know, so you know, it was kind of just regular, just going there and do your thing. The thing that surprised me was when I came out, when I did my walkout, and that's when I realized, I said, oh, Miguel Cotto is Puerto Rican. I said, whoa. they was with Cotto, yeah, big time.
Zab, was your previous fight to challenging Miguel, was that the Mayweather fight?
What do you mean?
What was your fight before you got in there with Miguel?
What was it?
Yeah, who did you fight before Miguel?
I fought, what's his
He
name?
fought Floyd, then he fought Ruben Galvan.
Ruben Gavin, yeah.
Ruben Galvan.
Yeah, Ruben Gavin.
I'm guessing you got into better shape for Cotto than you did.
Yeah. No, 100%, man.
He
Miguel
was
Cotto,
at his best.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Miguel,
was.
Miguel Cotto, when we got the call and we got the fight, actually, I flew, it was All-Star weekend. So I kind of thought, you know, Bob Arum, he's kind of tricky guy. Right? I thought it was All-Star, I thought he was tricking me. He come out to Vegas, I want to see you All-Star weekend. This one All-Star was in Vegas. I go to Vegas, he sit down, we talk about the Miguel Cotto. He said, what do you think about Cotto? I said, Cotto's a good fighter. You think about fighting? We got to fight for. I said, okay, cool. Then he say, so we signed the contract, I stay. He said, yeah, you want to stay for All-Star? I got room for you, I got tickets, you can hang out. So I'm like, wait a minute. I got to go home and train for Miguel Cotto, but you saying stay for All-Star weekend? I said, this is crazy. But I still had maybe 3 months. 3 months of training, and not gonna lie, I stayed for All-Star weekend. I stayed for All-Star weekend, you know what I'm saying? But 3 months later, we had it, man. That was a fight to remember.
Yeah, you looked like dialed in.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, like this is Zab at 100%, and it was rough and physical early. And I want to know from you, Miguel, the first time you tasted Zab's power, because that left hand is kind of legendary.
He cut me with a flush left. And after that, I hit him right on the balls.
I thought you were going to say cut. Yes. Yeah.
And then what was an electrify, was a extraordinary night for us.
Yeah.
You really, did you feel like, okay, I'm gonna have to give my best on this night. After tasting the power and hearing the crowd and just feeling because there was tension. I know, like your fans were worried, like, oh shit.
I took every tool of my box
Yeah.
to face Zab. He was an excellent boxer. He was an extraordinary contender, and the fight was amazing.
Yeah, and Zab, it became a battle of attrition. It became very physically grueling. How does it stack up? You fought everybody, but in terms of the physicality of a fight, where does it rank?
Later for all that, I love Miguel Cotto because before I fought Miguel Cotto, I had 4 daughters. After Miguel Cotto hit me with them 2 low blows, all my boys came. I had all sons after that. So it was a blessing. I said, okay. It's a known fact,
Towards the end of the fight, what was it, or was there something that changed things, and made, Miguel be able to stop you?
Not even going to the end of the fight. Let's go back to the beginning of the fight, in the middle of the fight. Like Miguel Cotto he's a warrior. Every time the bell rung, he got up, and I would look at him. And he would look at me, he shakes his head, and he'd come on, let's go. So I'm like, oh, this motherfucker's not gonna stop, you know what I'm saying? And he's right here, he's solid, he's thick. Even when you grab him, you can feel like his power.
That's the thing with him. He makes you feel like you're always fighting, even when you're
Yes,
not. All 3 minutes. And I'm telling you, when he fought Floyd, and I told people, I'm like, yo, he's gonna make it tough. I'm telling you, because Floyd likes this space and everything. Miguel is always right here. He's cutting off the ring. He's right here. And then he hits so hard that even when you're not engaging him, you feel like at any moment is going to be engaging because he stays at that range where anything could happen. So all 3 minutes is just stress. I just remember stress.
So he beat you physically and mentally. Basically, he drained you both ways.
Really, yeah. It's not really. It's just that when the bell rings, we gotta fight.
Yeah, all 3 minutes.
All 3 minutes. It's not really draining mental anything. It's just that for 3 minutes I gotta fight. Like there's some fighters you get in the ring with, like, okay, I could take off half a round.
Yeah, you could take a walk.
I could walk, I could do this. You know what I'm saying? But Cotto, no. No days off, no time off. Yeah.
It's interesting. Now, years later, Paulie, you and Zab shared the ring, and you're both more boxing. I know Zab can punch, and in his younger years was a hunter.
but in later years, more of just a all-around veteran boxer, and a lot of skill on display, but also some specific strategy. What enabled you to kind of get through this fight? Because I'm imagining you were often the underdog. I'm imagining.
Yeah,
Even though Zab was older than you, a lot older.
Zab was slightly favored in the fight.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe he was a favorite.
It was like I was like a plus 150 underdog, so it was a very pick-em fight. But I remember we were both coming off competitive losses. He'd fought Danny Garcia, and I'd fought Bronner. So I found myself being offered this fight and realizing they're trying to just eliminate one of us. You know, like they're gonna sell it as a Battle of New York. And at first, I remember turning it down at first because I said, no, first of all, you're trying to eliminate one of us. Second of all, whoever wins this fight, the media is just going to say, oh, the other guy was finished because there's going to be 2 losses in a row for whoever loses it. So you're going to get no credit for winning the fight. And so at first I was like, nah. So, then they,
You sweetened the pot.
You sweeten the pot. Where else are you going to go? Do you want to box or do you want to go to work? What do you want to do? So you got to fight, So at the end of the day, this was the one that was here. And it was, Battle Brooklyn. They're going to sell it well. Okay, it's paying. It's a main event. Still, what I said before, I still had that in mind. They're trying to eliminate one of us, and the winner is not going to get credit because they're just going to say the other one's going to lose 2 losses in a row. Stayed on my mind, but now I got to focus, right? And this is a guy that I grew up looking up to in my own gym. This is a guy that was the talk of my gym when I started boxing. I was literally nobody, just a kid learning to box, and everybody was talking about him. So this is how far back I go in recognizing who Zab is. And having watched him throughout his career and my career, I just picked up one thing and I told myself, this was my plan going into the fight with you, Zab. This was and I said, number one, I never lost to a southpaw amateur or pro in my whole career. So I said, he's a southpaw. I kind of know what I got to deal with. But second of all, fighters have strengths and weaknesses. And again, especially as an analyst, I'm always looking at that. I think it comes from not getting a lot of knockouts. I have to figure out little patterns and little things, and I think that helped me as an analyst, right? So, and there are very good fighters that have been in boxing who don't fight well backing up. Once you back them up, they're not the same fighter. The fighters like Mike Tyson, Julio Cesar Chavez, guys who are very good fighters, but if you back them up, you kind of start negating them. And then there are fighters that can fight going backwards. And some fighters give you the appearance through athleticism that they can fight going backwards, but they still can't sometimes, Some fighters can. Like Pernell Whitaker was amazing fighting going backwards, but he could also press you, you know what I'm saying? So don't get me wrong. I saw in my generation, Amir Khan was like that. If you back up Amir, he had a problem. I tried to back him up, didn't work because he was just pushing my head down every time I got close and beat my ass. But another one was Zab. Zab was super speed, real talented. I think he always had the ability to fight going backwards, but I don't think he maybe he never worked on it or something, because he had the athleticism to fight being able to go backwards. But I'd see every time he started getting backed up in his fights, he'd kind of start to, diminish, right? So I said, how am I going to back up this guy? I'm not a big puncher. He's the big puncher. And how am I going to back up this guy and start to create doubt in him without being a big puncher? But he is the big puncher. So I got to be careful not to walk into anything. So I watched 2 fights. I watched the Carlos Baldomir fight, and I watched the Floyd Mayweather fight. And the Mayweather fight, I picked up something. Floyd is getting beat up in the beginning of the fight. Zab is doing a great job. But Floyd is just doing this weird pressure thing. He's just putting his hands up and just trying to walk Zab down, trying to press him and press him and press him. And it cost him a bunch of rounds. But I guess what he was trying to do was diminish Zab's confidence in that if I stay in his face, he's going to break down. And I saw that it worked in that fight. I said, I can't do this, because if I walk into a left hand, this guy's going to put me to sleep, So I said, how am I going to go press him without being reckless? So I worked on a lot of head movement pressuring. Because I said, I want to do what Floyd did, but I got to do it behind better head movement. Not to say that Floyd couldn't do it. Floyd's a much better fighter than me, but what I'm saying is I tried to just take a little bit of this and just add my own little style to it. And I said, I got to keep him backing up. And that was it. Throughout camp, I remember just working on a couple of different angle things, working on a lot of counter right hands off the jabs from the southpaws. because I know he's got a good southpaw jab, and that was kind of my plan. You know?
Despite what you felt the media was going to say, and you were probably right about that, like, how did you feel about your performance in this victory?
I felt going into the fight, it was, you know, I had to, if I wanted to remain at this level, I enjoyed being at a high level of boxing. I had been there since I fought Miguel. I didn't want to go anywhere, you know, and I felt like if I lose this fight, it's, you know, they're going to eliminate me from this level, you know?
Right. And you had that chip on your shoulder, too, where you didn't believe that you
I felt like I won the Broner. I felt like I won the Broner fight. I was really aggravated about the Broner fight.
Yeah.
Zab had performed well in the Garcia fight, so
Yeah.
I you know, I knew I was in a fight, but I was like, the chip on my shoulder was not just that I didn't get the rematch of Broner, because that's another reason why I initially turned down the fight with him. I wanted a rematch of Broner. They wouldn't give it to me. And the WBA, when you take a title off a champion, you give the championship belt back to the champion, and they send you a copy in the mail whenever, the next week, right? The WBA, when I lost my title to Broner, already had mailed their copy to Broner. Broner didn't have to even give me my belt back. They already sent a copy of the belt to the fight. So they knew what they were going to do before the fight even started, you know? So there was a bunch of aggravating things about the Broner fight that was on my nerves already. And then you're matching me with Zab and saying you're trying to eliminate one of us. You know what I'm saying? So you just, either you're trying to eliminate me or you're trying to eliminate him. One thing or the other. You know, I'm already pissed off from this. Now I'm getting pissed off from this. So going into the fight, I had the chip on my shoulder. Like, I got to prove something. It wasn't personal. It was at the press conference. It was very respectful because it was, like I said, he'd always been somebody that I looked up to in the gym. But it was just, you know, I felt like the fight could have probably happened at various times in our careers. But it happened at that point. You know?
It must have felt good to get a W against somebody who could, you know, quite possibly wind up in the International Boxing Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
And Miguel's name is on the ballot now.
Yeah, I didn't know.
If Zab's isn't, it should be.
Yeah,
I think it will be.
I didn't even give a lot of that any thought at that point anymore. I just remember at that point I was just disgusted. You know, I was just like, you know, I think the passion for boxing at that point had left me, but I was a money fighter still. I could make money. I could, you know, I liked the recognition that being a high-level boxer gave you still. But it was so many things I already didn't like, you know. So I was kind of angry. I wasn't angry at Zab, but I was kind of angry at a lot of things at that particular time, you know.
Zab, listening to what Paulie said, that he saw a flaw, that he could pressure you and make you go backwards, what does that make you think now of maybe you could have done something different? Or does it make you think of anything that you wish you could have done instead?
No, that was his game plan. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect Paulie to come forward. 100% I thought he would go backwards. So he kind of threw us off a little bit with that game plan.
That was another reason why I felt like I didn't feel like he would expect that either. You know, I would be the last guy you would think would come forward to you and still would step it to you. You know, but I felt like it was the only way I was going to win. You know, I felt like if I go backwards, I'm going to give him a chance to put momentum on his left hand. And even Miguel found out, you know, he's going to land some clean left hands if you allow him to be in that comfort zone. So I think Miguel took away the comfort zone after he took that big left hand as well, you know. So I felt like if you're in a chess match kind of boxing match with him, he's gonna find a hole for that left hand. He's too quick and he's too smart, you know. So
you can't let him think too much, you know. He can surprise you.
Zab, you heard Paulie say that, you know, going into the fight, he felt that the media and maybe the fans would think whoever lost the fight, they're out. He was definitely thinking the promotion was thinking, like, you know, on the promotional TV executive side, okay, whoever loses this or whatever. In pro wrestling, what do they call it? Loser leaves town? Yeah. Did you feel like, oh, crap, okay, like, in your mind, were you kind of like, well, there are not going to be many more or any more big nights after this? Do you start looking at, okay, I've had a long, great career. Do I wind it down, or were you still thinking like, no, I can come back and there's still maybe one more world title run?
No, I've never went into a fight thinking that this was the end.
That was the end. So I never had them thoughts on my mind. I never had thoughts about this could be the last time. This is a fighter. I'm going there. I'm going to prepare. I'm going to watch the fighter, come up with our strategies and our game plan, and we're going to go at the fighter. So no, I never had no thoughts about that.
What about after the fight?
That what? That
After the fight. Yeah, I understand going into the fight, you're not thinking this might be my last fight.
Oh no. After the fight, after the fight, you know, it had to sink in. I was like, wow, you know, the fight. I lost the fight. I was like, okay, we can figure this out. I mean, you gotta remember, you know, I got off the ground 6 different times to come back and win the championship of the world.
Sure.
So you know, when you, I don't know. It's just like now. I feel like if I was eligible and I was healthy enough, I can come back and do it again now if I choose to. You know what I'm saying?
Paulie remarked when you walked on the set, you do look like you're fighting weight.
Yeah, I just said,
Yeah.
you know, no, but no more fighting. No, It's over, it's over.
Well, that brings me to the point of, when did you guys realize it was time to step away? What was the one point? Was there a fight, a moment?
Or even during training?
Yeah, something. What triggered, or when did you guys realize, you know what, it's time to go?
Let me go first. I'm gonna get over
the
it.
elder statesman.
For me, it was, I lost the enthusiasm to get up and train. If that makes sense to you. Like when I got up and trained, it was like, it's a job. I gotta get up, shit. You know what I mean? Like I remember being young, I would get up before the alarm clock go off, and I'm up already stretching, alarm clock go off, I'm like, I'm ready. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So it's a difference, you know what I mean? When that alarm clock rang, when I was in my 38, 39 years old, and the alarm clock rang, and you like, gotta do this shit again? Damn, all right. Yeah, you like, you know what I mean? So it's a big difference. It was a big difference, and that's when I started to, you know, not right off the back do you go, okay, I'm done. No, you never do that. You go into the gym and you keep trying and you keep, you know, you look in the mirror and you know what I'm saying, and you like, okay, I'm sparring today, but you know, why am I keep getting hit with right hands or hooks, or why I can't dodge a jab, or you know what I mean? These are to put together like, you know what? Man, I need to go home and sit my ass down somewhere. you know what I mean? And you just be, you know, especially when you be real with yourself, you like, yo, man, I did a lot. I did enough. I'm good.
How about you, Miguel?
I was 37 when I retired. And at that point, I just realized that I spent too much time in boxing. I'm always be a family man. And it was time to spend time with my kids. I lost a lot of dates, a lot of important dates with them, and it was time to just stay the much possible time with them.
But was there, you know, a sequence of events leading up to, you know, realizing that, yeah, you know, I've got to step back?
No, just planified that at the end of 2017. I was.
So you knew
stepping,
already.
yeah.
So you had set a date for yourself as to when it was going to be the end. Paulie?
Like Zab was saying, you were getting up earlier, you were doing the work, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, man, I gotta go to the gym right now. You know, I gotta be there. And then add to it, in the training camps, I was getting little injuries that I wasn't getting before. Little stupid injuries. Like I always had bad hands, but then I always had to be careful with my hands. But I was getting like dumb injuries, like tendonitis in my elbow, or my knee, I would get shin splints, and my Achilles tendons would hurt when I would jog, so I would have to do other things for conditioning, and just like stupid things. You're like, and then they're hobbling you when you're sparring, and then you catch like a little strain in sparring. So now I would try to spar between 125 and 170 rounds in a training camp. Now I was only doing like 60 rounds in training camp because I'm gonna get injured. I'm not even gonna get to the fight. And then I'll go the last step further. My last fight of my career was Sam Eggington in England. Fight was right there. First of all, I was in a competitive fight with a guy I wouldn't have been in a competitive fight with before, and that's no disrespect to Sam, who's a rugged guy. But I'm in a competitive fight. And I remember as I'm fighting, and these are the last 2 fights of my career actually, even with Tito Bracero right before that, I'm fighting the fight. But Bracero, I won the fight, but I'm fighting the fight. And in certain uncomfortable moments, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here, man? I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, like I want to go home, man. I don't want to be here. You know what I mean? Like,
because there is a saying,
but in between fights, you're like, if I win this fight, I might get another title shot. You know, like that kind of drives you. But then when you're in the ring, you're like, what am I doing? I was sitting I can remember in the Bracero fight, my trainer talking to me, and I'm like, man, I don't even want to be here right now. You know what I mean? But it wasn't uncomfortable enough, so I was able to pull it off. The Eggington fight, it's uncomfortable. He's a pressure guy. But it's a 50-50 fight. I remember it was right there, and he drops me with a body shot, and it hurt, man. It hurt. I was legitimately hurt. I went down. But I really think around 8 or 9, I may have been able to beat the count. I really think, like, not looking like, but what's going through your mind? Not that you got to beat the count, that you got to beat the count and continue fighting. And years ago, that wouldn't have been a question. Now I got to beat the count, and I'm kind of debilitated. So if I'm going to continue fighting, I got to go through an ass whipping and try to keep winning this fight. You know what I mean? Am I willing to do that? And the count hit 10. And that's when I knew it's over. That's right there. I said, okay, I can't fight
because
again.
There's a saying.
Otherwise, I'm lying to myself.
And Doug said it the other day. When a fighter thinks about retirement, he's already retired.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else. People, anytime somebody breaks some of their orbital bone, now people message me. Billy Joe Saunders broke an orbital bone. People message me about the fight with Miguel. Oh, you broke your orbital bone. See, they quit. You always call them quitters. They always have to use this word, quitters. And they always hit me up. And I've never been critical of a guy who quit with that injury. That is a painful injury, and that is a rough injury. And people always like, yeah, you got hard, and these guys, see what they do, they quitting. And they don't listen. You notice I never criticize anybody that quit. Kell Brook, Billy Joe Saunders, Daniel Dubois. Everybody always, all the big macho men come in on a keyboard. Even other fighters that haven't been through it. You know, they come in there and talk their shit. And I've never said anything because I know that injury. I know what it is to live in that injury. And I'll tell you something. I was able to do it because I'm starving. 25 years old, I need to be in that fight. I need to win that fight. I need to compete in that fight. I didn't win it, but I need to compete in that fight. I can't call it a night in round 2. I can't do it. Right. I don't think at 35 I could have gone through what I went through at 25 with Miguel. And people don't want to hear it. Like, what do you think this is, bro? What do you think this stays with you? Do you think you're just Superman? You don't age, your mind doesn't change, your priorities don't change? So, anyway, bottom line, when I didn't beat that count, and I was hurt, it's not like I was hurt, could I have beat it? Possibly 8 or 9, I could have beat that count, possibly. But the fact that I didn't even try, I said,
you're a different
I'm lying
person.
to myself if I fight again, I'm lying.
You're not just older, you're successful. You've got money in the bank. Yeah. So you're not just thinking about getting up, you're thinking about, do I want to continue doing this? Period.
Yeah, of course. There's a different circumstances in my life, of course. Sure. Different circumstances.
Well, you mentioned about injuries, and Miguel just a little earlier showed us that he's got a little bit of an injury, a memento from your fight.
At least I gave him something to remember me by.
There you go.
What happened?
I tried to hit Paulie with a body shot, and he put his elbow, and I hit right here with his elbow. I broke my hand, my finger.
Wow. Good thing I blocked that body shot. Imagine how hard he threw it. Imagine I didn't put the elbow there.
You guys you look great. You've all had very successful post-boxing careers. If you look at Zab's T-shirt, it says Celebrity Championship Boxing, and that's boxing, it's street fighting, it's celebrity boxing, it's entertainment, like an entertainment company. So he's involved on a promotional level, and Miguel, you as well. You have Miguel Cotto Promotions. 15 or 16 fighters signed. Yeah, and a lot of world-class fighters as well. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, you've done very well as a commentator and a broadcaster, but have you ever thought about, with your experience, guiding fighters either from a managerial or a promotional?
I've sponsored some amateur kids, things like that. I don't want to be in the business. It turned me off in my career. I don't want to deal with it because I don't think I'm good to deal with, basically, I'll put it to you like this, bro. If you're gonna screw my fighters, like I'll probably want to stab you in your throat, bro. You know what I mean? Like I'm sick and tired of dealing with the shit. You know, so I don't want to deal with it. Now on the other end of it too, because now I'm gonna look at you in your face and know you're lying to me, and like it's not gonna go well. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to even discuss that. I respect the business. I respect the sport. But I'd rather not be on that side of it anymore.
Well, having said that,
Smart.
and a quick chime in there. But having said that, then where do you guys see the actual state of boxing? With all the promotional problems, fighters, with one promotional company won't face somebody else because they're with another promotion, and just the fact that we've seen things happen as of late that turns a lot of people off from boxing. Now you've got, not to mention anything bad about celebrity boxing, but it seems like a lot of people are getting more hyped up about celebrity boxing than actual real fights.
I mean, for me, it goes like this. You sign to the CCB, you could be all you could be. What I got is better than the Army, you know what I'm saying? So that you can be, you can be great at what you do, you know what I'm saying? It's a platform that provides a situation. My biggest thing for what I'm doing is guns down, gloves up. You know what I mean? I think that it's a lot of punks out here that finds it easy to pick up guns and take care of their problems, rather than, if you could fight, then you could, come outside for the next day. If not, figure out some training upstairs and then come outside, you know what I mean? So we provide a platform for celebrities, for street people, for boxers, for just a platform for you to get your fight on, and legally and safely. That's it.
Well, yours is, it's just this broad spectrum. It's not just boxing.
No, it's boxing. No, it's 100% boxing. Boxing rules.
What I'm saying is it's not just boxers. It's not just professional boxers.
You mean?
Right,
Yeah, you mean it's not professional boxers. No,
what I'm wondering is, and Paulie, you were always outspoken, because for much of your career, you're like, you're an outsider, right? Or you're that perennial underdog or whatever, and you would be in fights where it was controversial. You really felt like you won, and if you felt that you got robbed, you spoke out about that. I'm talking years ago. I can't even remember, when was the first Juan Diaz fight?
2009.
2000. So okay, yeah, well over 10 years ago, and during your post-fight interview on HBO, you're like, boxing's full of shit, and you weren't wrong. I do want to know, has it gotten any better, or has it gotten worse, or is it just the same from your perspective?
I don't think it changes. I think when there's too much money on the line, judges are still doing what they do. It's funny because, you look at like the 40s and 50s and people blame organized crime for setting up boxing. But just because you put the word mafia there, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it was bad. What's the difference today? You're not, instead of paying off the fighters to take dives, you pay off the judges. Maybe you pay them off in different ways. Maybe you don't have to give them money. You fly them in first-class airlines. You put them in 5-star hotels.
You're still in business with them.
You get them 5-star restaurant meals. You get them a couple of hookers. You do whatever you do. And on fight night, there's an understanding, because a promoter can't choose you as a judge by the commission rules, but a promoter can X you out if he doesn't want you to judge his fight. You can't say, I want this judge, but when the organization or when the commission says we're going to place these judges for this fight, the promoter can protest the judge. Right. So you don't want to be on any promoter's blacklist, especially if he's giving you all this treatment. It's like there's an understanding. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and nobody's scratching the fighter's back. So, there's no difference. It's just there's no mafia. So
what about
now it's cleaner. It's not
the
cleaner.
Organizations? What about the WBC, the WBA, the IBF? Have things gotten better? Have things gotten worse?
I'll let them see. I got something to say, but I'll let them talk. Otherwise, it'll just be
What
me
do you
talking.
think, Zad?
I haven't been, doing business with those guys in a while, and I've been out of it. But it looks to be, when I was fighting Jose Suleiman and Maurice Suleiman, we had a great relationship. You know what I'm saying? I won the IBF championship. They always was fair. They always stuck beside me. I stuck beside them, and We had it out.
You were undisputed
Yeah.
when you beat Corey Spinks in
Yeah.
your rematch. You were undisputed welterweight champion. But today they would say, no, you have to win the WBO belt as well. When you were undisputed, you had the free belt.
I had WBO.
You had the WBO.
I beat Chad Coley.
Yeah, but that was at 140
At
pounds.
140,
But I'm
right.
talking about
At
as a
47.
welterweight. Yeah,
Right.
47. But you had 3 belts, but you were considered the undisputed
Undisputed
champion.
champion.
And now it's like, well, now there's the WBO, and who knows, maybe later it's
I
like
hope they
you
make it.
have to have the IBO.
So I hope
and
they
you're not
make it
undisputed. It
I
seems
hope
like it's
they-
impossible.
I hope they make it harder because I am currently the last undisputed champion of the world.
Okay.
So if they make it harder,
You got that
I'll be
distinction.
around for a long time.
Yeah. If you could change one thing, and we could start with you, Zab, and then go to.
I spent, with the amateurs, probably 30-something years of my life to boxing. I would feel it's selfish of me just to walk away with all this knowledge and experience and not go back and teach somebody else. So that's why I'm somehow, some form, gonna be 1 foot in, 1 foot out of boxing.
No,
always.
we're glad you're still involved with the sport, especially on an amateur level, on a level where they're young and impressionable and coming up. Miguel?
I just think that the base of our careers was our amateur careers. You know, we were built as an amateur boxer first. Then we were prepared to deal with professional boxing. I think that we had to educate the kids to spend time in amateur boxing, develop their skills in amateur boxing, and then decide to move on to professional boxing.
No, you don't see that much anymore.
I agree with both of these guys. I think what Miguel just said is a tremendous importance because I'm one that started boxing late. And remember, I chose to stay that extra year because I just felt like I needed more experience. Without that amateur system, I wouldn't have been able to acquire the skill set, the knowledge, the experience to be calm as a professional boxer. And you have to be calm as a professional boxer because the shots are much more powerful and you're going to get hurt. So I think it's very important. I'll add to that, there's got to be some systems where fighters kind of learn the business before they turn pro. Maybe some kind of education system as amateurs, especially when you're a top amateur, you're going to deal with big contracts.
Well, that's great. Guys, listen, you guys held a lot of belts, but it wasn't about the belts. If you guys were not fighting for world titles, people would have tuned in because you're exceptional boxers, you're courageous warriors, and you fought everybody. You didn't avoid challenges, and I think some of your best fights were against each other. And guys, I want to thank you again for sharing this experience with us. I know I speak for Jaime. It's just been a real honor and privilege covering your careers, but also reliving those careers right here on the Icons.